wonderful.
Revolution Radio, Operation No Control on the headline. All our bulletproof. If this is what you call the good life, I want a better way to die.
Hoy vamos a estar entrevistando a Corbett Redford, el director del documental Turn It Around the Story of East Bay Punk, producido nada más y nada menos que por Green Day. Así que, ¿por qué no vamos y escuchamos lo que Corbett tiene para decirnos?
Sí, my name is Corbett Redford. I live in Pinole, California. I went to school with Green Day. I was a freshman in high school when they were seniors. Became a fan, of their band and a friend. So it was this very interesting thing for me because, there was a time in my life where I only had T-shirts that were Green Day. For me to, be able to call them friends and to do this project is a pretty amazing thing for me. I've been an artist for over 20 years of my life. I've done writing. I've been in a band. I put out records. I've made music videos, and for the last 4 years, I've been working on this film, executive produced by Green Day, about the history of East Bay punk rock.
And how did you come with this project? How did you come with the idea of making Turn It Around the Story of East Bay Punk?
Green Day, I had the idea for, I would say, 5 years or so, and they just kind of didn't, know exactly how it would take shape. Billy Joe was looking for some footage. Well, it turns out that Billy Joe, remembered it being filmed too. So because I had connections, I guess, to, the Gilman culture and things like that, Billy asked me if I might be able to find it. And I did find this footage, and I found a lot more. And I brought it back to Billy, and he said, "That's great. We're trying to do a movie about our early years. Would you know anybody who could do it?" And I said, "Yeah, me." And he said, "I think you're right. Let me talk to the guys." And in the next couple of days, my life changed forever. So I got this chance to make this movie.
So there's a lot of punk rock history and culture in the Bay Area. Why do you think is that?
They say that the birth of punk was in, England and New York, but almost simultaneously, these things were happening everywhere, we had Ronald Reagan as our governor in California in the 70s and the early 80s. And, we had him as president here in the United States. And I think California has always been kind of at odds with the powers that be. California is notably, raises its voice against things it doesn't like, So I think it was kind of a perfect home for punk rock to blossom, in the Bay Area. So, it's so much comes from here, and punk wasn't born here, but it certainly did flourish here, and it found a good home here. Also, too, a lot of early punks here, their parents were hippies, and so when the kid did their hair and said, "Mom, Dad, check it out. Aren't you mad? Look at my hair. Aren't you mad?" They would say, "No, cool hairdo, man." So the kids had to find, new ways to revolt, So I don't know. It's a particular kind of punk rock that comes from the Bay Area, in my opinion.
Obviously, you love the Bay Area and all its punk background, but why did you want to tell this story?
Gilman Street changed me in many ways, and I come from where Green Day comes from, in Pinole and Rodeo and El Sobrante. I've lived in all of those places, and our parents are not professors. Our parents are not social workers. Our parents are waitresses and truck drivers and refinery workers. And we didn't have. Maybe it's like when we moved out to Gilman, the thoughtful people and the they taught me a lot about how to be a better citizen of the world. You know, I was not racist or sexist or homophobic, but I had no filter, and things would just kind of fly out of my mouth, you know, early on. And so Gilman basically taught me how to be better. And I think it also, you know, it taught Green Day a lot as well early on. So that was one reason why it was important for me to honor Gilman and that culture, because it helped me become who I am.
So would you say that Turn It Around is more about the bands that play there and their stories, or is it more about the people?
That's interesting, because certain reviews have said, wow, there's so many bands in this, you know, it's band after band after band after band. But then a lot of people say it's about our region and it's about the people. It's I saw a review yesterday that said that people seem so relaxed during their interviews, and it's like many of the people that we interviewed I knew, you know, so it was like I was talking to my friends, and so they were maybe funnier than they usually are, or they, you know what I mean? And so I think the main character is the scene, and it is Gilman, and is our area, the East Bay. It's very particular. You have Berkeley and Oakland, which are across the bay from San Francisco. Okay, so very, very close, 10 minutes on a good day with no traffic. And then around those are these little towns, so many little towns that all these great bands came from. So I would say it is more about our region and our scene and the people than it is about any particular bands.
What is so significant about Gilman?
You know, it's interesting. I'm on the fundraising board for Gilman, helpgilman.org, right? And the idea behind it is that we're trying to secure the place's future. We still pay rent there, day to day. And that neighborhood, there's these boutiques and very nice restaurants and stores that are kind of closing in. And when Gilman started, that was an industrial area that nobody really went to. There was like stray dogs everywhere. And people were like, oh, you don't go down there, you know? And so it was crazy, you know. But now, it is a landmark. I hate to say that, because in punk, you know, things are supposed to not be so sacred. You know, it's 30 years on. I think it's still around because the rules are so what's the word? Imbued. They're so deep in that place that it runs like a machine, kind of. You know. It's true. I mean, you know, when you tell people no violence, then you're not going to get the cops shutting it down for fights as much. You know, when you tell people no alcohol, then you're not going to get as many people drinking underage, which is also, you know, illegal here. You know, there's less of a chance that things can go wrong. You know, but you know, like anything, there's the headaches. You know.
So did Green Day give you a specific guideline, or did they want or have something special to tell?
You know, that's basically, there were some friendly ideas that they originally started with. They wanted diverse voices. They didn't want just all, you know, white, you know, heteronormative dudes, you know. They wanted women, people of color, LGBTQI folks. Also, too, they didn't want me to tell a story that made everybody go, oh, wow, like, we could never do that. That's so cool. Like, oh, well, I guess I missed that train. You know, they wanted us to tell a story that made people think that they could do it too, you know? And then the last one was that don't get buried in the negative stuff, because you can just stay there, and it's just not a great place to be. You know, don't gloss over it, you know, but certainly don't get stuck there. But there was no particular story that they wanted to tell, other than, you know, the whole story, you know, of why it was inspiring. You know, people will say, people that watch this movie, and there's a lot of Green Day footage in this film that nobody has ever seen. There's a lot of Green Day photos that nobody has ever seen. There's even Green Day songs that no one has heard. There's things that the fans will like, but also too, Green Day doesn't come into the film until about 40 minutes in. I think Green Day wanted to shine their light on the people and the scene that means so much to them as well. So Green Day's part of the East Bay punk scene, so they're a big part of our movie, but they're not the whole part, you know.
So Iggy Pop is the narrator of the movie. Why and how did you pick Iggy Pop for being the narrator?
So we had a 5-hour movie, and so I said we did not want to use a narrator. We wanted the people who made the history to tell the history. But then we realized if we wanted to make 5 hours into 2.5, what a narrator helps you do is condense themes. A narrator helps you tell more story in a shorter time. So Billy and I thought about it, and one day he said, what about Iggy Pop? And I said, that would be amazing. You know, he's got a great voice. And he said, we did some songs with him on Skull Ring, and let me reach out to him. And the next thing I knew, I was on the phone and on a plane to his house in Miami and recording narration, and it was very incredible. I mean, I'll never forget the day, you know. There's a lot of people in this film that I never thought I would meet in my life, and I got the chance to meet them, and it was pretty incredible.
And how much material did you get?
500 hours of interview footage, 35,000 photos and flyers, 500 video clips. Green Day said, okay, we want you to preserve this history. First find the history and then preserve it. And so I got all of it. Yeah, it's pretty much no stone unturned. You know, we got everything. So, yeah, there's definitely on the DVD and Blu-ray, there will be some deleted scenes. Some more might be released like online or in other ways. So, yeah, it'll all be out at some point for sure.
So back to turning it around, there's a lot of young people nowadays that don't know about punk rock or don't know about rock in general. So who are you hoping to reach with this film?
You know, I don't want to change anybody's mind about what kind of music they like. You know, Kathleen Hanna says in our film, punk isn't a sound; it's an idea, where you would encourage people around you to do things they're afraid to do in front of other people, and they would do the same by encouraging you. You know, it's a spirit, it's an energy. Somebody at a recent Q&A for our film said, Corbett, you know, my kid listens to this horrible electronic music, and his friend down the street, they listen to it too, and then they make songs and they trade songs. I said, that kind of sounds like punk to me. You know, people figuring out how to make something and sharing it. So just because you don't like the sound or you don't understand it doesn't mean that spirit isn't there, you know? So I would say, no, I mean, personally, I need a loud guitar, you know? Or, you know, I need a certain kind of, I don't know, like fire, you know? Like an energy behind the music that I like, you know? So I would say that if you have a younger sibling who likes crappy music, play them good music. Play them music. In fact, I'll be full disclosure, completely honest here. When I was 15 or 16, when I heard bands like the Ramones and I heard bands like Blatz or some of these other kinds of East Bay punk bands, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I thought, what is this? Like, I was used to this really vanilla, like Beach Boys kind of like stuff, and I still love that stuff. But when I first heard that punk rock, I was like, no, like, you know, and now it's my favorite. I know every Ramones song. I love the Ramones. I love punk rock. If a younger person doesn't like punk right off the bat, they might like it later, you know. So just share your music with other people. Make music, even if you don't think you can. Get some friends together and try to learn. And it's going to sound bad for a while, but maybe eventually it'll sound good. So.
So Billy Joel came with the idea of making this film, but what did he and what did all the band think about turning around the story of ESB Punk?
They love it. They're very happy, and they feel like it's a very different, special kind of movie. They tell me that they're proud of what I've done, and they love watching it. They love sharing it, and I think they're really happy to have made it possible. So they're stoked, as we'd say in California. They're hella stoked. And hello to everyone. Thanks so much, Vicky.